I'm Jerome Hill. With me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill, and also friend of the show and also not a stranger to the show is Joseph Mosley. You may remember him as the homicide detective in Chicago PD. So for those members that can go ahead and see us and hear us, please type some type of chat to us or either on our phones or even on the chat here. As you know, this is a live, so anything can happen. It is very rare that we come live on a Wednesday. However, a lot of things dictate us coming on, particularly once again school shooting, and we want to go ahead and talk about those matters as it relates. So, if anybody can just give us a text, let us know that you can hear us and see us properly. I deeply appreciate it. All righty. And with that said and done, let's get into it, guys. So, as you know, two children, 8 and 10 years old, sat in pews in Minneapolis church for what is can only be described as a school mass before church. I mean, before school. By the time the prayers ended, they were gone. 17 others lay bleeding. 14 of those are children. And the man behind it all was armed with a rifle, shotgun, and a pistol. He came not just only to kill, but to send a message of pure, unadulterated hate. This wasn't random, and the FBI is calling it domestic terrorism and a hate crime against Catholics. This tragedy exposes America's darkest underbelly of extremism, weapons, and failed safeguards. So, this is what we know. Authorities have confirmed that the shooter, as a 23-year-old person by well, I'll say Mr. Westman, what was formerly, I mean, Ms. Westman, formerly Robert Westman. I may have those facts mixed up. In any way, the
No, you're
person was
correct.
transitioning. Westman died by suicide at the scene. Westman had no substantial criminal history and legally acquired all of the weapons used in the attack. So at this time, this is what we have. And along with the manifesto and a disturbing video that was supposed to be on this platform, YouTube, and to be scheduled, that was taken down with all types of hate and ideological messaging. And now that's under investigation. In addition, there were to the three firearms, we also had a smoke bomb, an incendiary device. So this person came prepared to do major, major damage. And law enforcement was able to go ahead and execute a search warrant at multiple locations, including the shooter's father's nearby residence, and recovered additional weapons. As it stands up right now, we lost two kids during this mass, and thus we had several, four remain in critical condition, but they're all expected to live as a news conference within an hour. So this is one of them suffered a head wound. Brothers, we're back at this again as we predicted, and it will keep on happening. What are some of your reactions and thoughts? We haven't heard from Joe for a while. Let's go ahead, Joe. Let's hear from you.
Well, man, when I first heard about it, I'm like, not again. But let me give you a little background. When the Columbine went down, when the Columbine shooting finally was everything, all the, if lack of a better term, dust settled, I had been in contact with the sheriff, and I got a copy of what they should do. Uh, and for lack of a better term, it's a review of policies and procedures, and I actually have pictures from the scene, and it's frightening that that type of vitriol is directed towards kids. Not only that, but the the fact that this guy's mother worked at the school,
Hmm.
there's I it show you how maybe because I'm crazy. I've always wanted to make sure these guys lived because I want to know what made them tick. You know,
Mhm.
it's like talking to a serial killer. What makes them tick? I've in my career, I've talked to maybe two true serial killers, and their thought process, you know, they look normal. I mean, if there is such a thing, but their thought process is completely asymmetrical of what we believe is right and wrong. But to attack, you know, all of us on this platform understand soft targets. We understand what our jobs were. It is entirely, just entirely outside my scope because I've responded to some really crazy scenes. But to see the victims of an attack, kids, it really throws your it puts you in another place. I don't know about you guys, but it does for me. And
Mhm.
uh, you know, in reading through this guy's, and I'm trying to be polite as I can, as you can tell, without using some real foul language. Uh, Even the writings on the weapons, he took that's straight from Columbine. Just so you know, I mean,
Mhm.
the whole idea of scribing and the manifestos and where did they learn this from? How did they? I mean, why would you? The kids were kneeling in prayer. Now, as we go along, I've got some other things I'll share with you, but thank you for having me, and I'll bow. I'll step back from now.
Victor?
Well, I wish I could be say I'm surprised we're here again. I'm not, and we're going to continue to be here until some decisive action is taken. You know, history repeats itself, and if people don't learn from history and interrupt the cycle of what it is, it'll continue to repeat itself. You know, based on what Joe said, there were pre-attack indicators along the way, and we have trained everybody, and unfortunately, our people in authority to say nothing and do nothing. Everybody's real, I don't want to violate nobody's constitutional rights or whatever like that. And then next thing you look, people get killed. If people put anything on the internet, if they write any type of writing or something, someone sees it and should say something. There, I guarantee you, once this investigation is done, it would have been obvious to his parents that he was a danger to himself and danger to others. And you're going to find other people who observed and saw things that saw he was a danger to himself and danger to others. I was very, very aggressive about this type of stuff when I was sheriff. If someone started seeing people brandishing weapons on social media and we knew it was in Clayton County, I sent deputies to send them a visit. Didn't matter. We had some teenagers brandishing rifles and everything like that. They knocked on the door, showed the parents, "Have you seen this? Your kids have that?" No, we didn't. Do you mind if we look and find these weapons and see what's going on? Parents like, I didn't know at all. And you got to put them on notice. We're watching. And parents, hey, if we can't confirm these weapons are stolen, you're gonna have to take custody of these weapons or let us take custody of it because they don't need to be in these folks' hands. And there is a bill or an act I've been working on called Dangerous Persons Gun Prohibited Act. We know that obviously the convicted felon thing is not working. It's like, okay, if you're a convicted felon, you can't have a gun. Whoop de damn do. Okay. Most of these folks doing these shootings are convicted felons.
Mhm.
So if that was the answer, and there are a lot of convicted felons that are convicted on wimp crimes. They didn't have a gun and probably afraid of a gun, and tell some dude that he did tax fraud, and now because he's convicted of that, he can't have a gun, and it was a felony he committed with a pencil, not a gun. And we're missing the real people who we should be targeting to take guns away, and that's dangerous people, not necessarily mental health people. Mental health people, not all of them are a threat to themselves and a threat to others, but there's a group of folks that are mentally ill that are a threat to themselves and threat for others. And there's a group of people who we don't think is mentally ill necessarily, but they've shown signs that they're a danger to themselves and a danger to others. And when they show those type of signs, we've got to give law enforcement and the courts the authority to seize weapons from them, at least temporarily. Doesn't mean permanently, but temporarily at least.
Right, right. So many of the school shooters, we know about 70 to 80%, according to schoolsafety.gov, get the firearm from home or family. So we need to start talking about that dynamic and maybe coming up with some cap laws. Those are just child access prevention laws to be associated when they're in these homes with individuals that have children. In this case, this person was 23 years old. So it really wouldn't pertain to that. But what might pertain is the fact that can we say that this person who's transitioning now, they've transitioned to the other world, but while they were transitioning, they're going through so much identity issues. And generally, what the FBI says all the time is that wherever you are most aggrieved at is where you will go to go ahead and commit this type of violence. Mother worked at the school. I don't know if this person went to school there, but it would just stand, maybe it's get back at the mother to embarrass the mother or whatever. But in any event, it's life altering to all these people. And I mean, it's just sad.
Well, I can tell you this. I can tell you this. It has more to do than just keeping guns from kids. If you have someone in your house, that
Get some
you know
bleep
for a
back
fact
for
is
me.
mentally ill. You said it. Yeah, this. I'm not sure what
Yeah,
that is. I'm not sure
yeah.
what that is.
I
You
don't
want
know
me
if
to come
we
back
have-
in?
I
You
don't know
want
if
me
we
to come
have,
back in?
No, it may be Joe.
Okay.
What are you hearing? Echo or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be good now. Try now, Keith.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We'll let Joe to come in and out.
Okay.
All right. So Joe, going over. Yeah, Joe,
Mhm.
it's yours.
Yeah, Joe, it's yours.
You're gonna have to go out.
You're gonna have to go out and can come back in.
All right.
Okay. Keith, go ahead and make your point.
Is that better?
It was Joe. It was Joe's
Joe.
going to come out.
Okay.
Joe's going to come out.
Okay.
And then come back in.
All right. Well, I think what we got to do is start holding people accountable. We got to start holding people accountable who have people that live with them that they know is not mentally stable. Okay. If someone lives in your house and you know for a fact that they threaten suicide, they threaten violence, that whatever like that, good and well they shouldn't have access to weapons. And you've not been on those type of calls before. And the first thing we got to do is, okay, well, is there any weapons in the house? Let's get those secured. I've had to respond to calls like that with people I know who were friends who suddenly got in a suicidal state. And the first thing, I have someone talk to them and distract them so I can see if I can locate their weapons and do something with them before they get to it or before they get the idea. So, when you have somebody in your house that's unstable,
Right.
and you're going to have to make sure they can't have access to it. And you've got to make sure that you call the authorities if you think them having access to a weapon is a problem. We've got to give our law enforcement that type of authority.
Yeah. So just to get back to what you were saying. Oh, we got still some echoes. With you.
Joe, you got your can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I could do something. All right, can you hear him? Okay. What I'm going to do is when Joseph is what I'm going to put with Joe is I'm going to put him on mute until you make a point, I make a point, and then when he comes in, we'll go ahead and let him in because it's the reverb on that. So just get to more to your point was if you can go ahead and childproof a pill bottle, you can childproof a gun cabinet. That's that's what we got to do. I mean,
Right. And let's say we got to be honest. There are people who they can't control some of their relatives. They can't necessarily
right.
get the weapons from them or anything like that. So what they'll have to do is they'll have to file a petition with the court and say, listen, I have a person that lives with me. Based on this, and that, I believe that they're a threat to themselves, a possible threat to themselves or others, and we need the weapons removed. And then, of course, there'll be a hearing, a judge will sign an order, and then law enforcement can go and legally seize those weapons. So not permanently, but they can also have a hearing in order to get the weapons back. But we got to concentrate on getting weapons out of people's hands who are in a state of mind that they're a threat to themselves and threat to others. The convicted felon thing is obviously not working.
Right. I want to get back to that, but I want Joe to chime in on what he sees on that end of it.
Sheriff
Joe,
is right. But I think there's some other issues that we need to address. Definitely mental health. I think that the other issue for me, and this is going to sound crazy, but stick with me. Notice the mode, not necessarily the mode, but who are the school shooters? 98% of school shooters have been white kids. Now, say what you want. Everybody in the hood knows two things you don't do. You don't shoot up schools. You don't shoot up churches. Am I right or wrong?
Mm-hmm.
You have not seen a black school shooter. I think there was one down in Texas a few years ago. But 99% of them have been white. Now, we have to look at that and say, why is that modality? Why? And the age is also something that we need to look at. So now we got white kids disenfranchised, shooting soft targets. How do they know soft targets? Now, if this guy was so suicidal, someone will tell you. I've been reading the suicidal. I read some of these AP and some other stuff saying he was suicidal, he was whatever. He wasn't too suicidal when he killed himself instead of killing 2 kids and shooting 17 others. So there's that to look at. There's also a book written by 2 professors out of, I believe it's Minnesota. It's called The Violent Killings Project. Please take a look at that because they talk about how to prevent school shootings. And it doesn't just address, it's not one-sided, one way or the other. And they talk about all the, if we're going to do this has got to be a homeopathic approach as opposed to, do it this way. This is the right way. Well, how do we know it's the right way? And you can tell me the argument of tried and true. Well, nothing's been tried and true. Nothing has worked. I mean, I think the last number I saw, there's been 217 school shootings in this year alone. Come on, man. What's going on? Now, is that because of the current atmosphere in the country? Who's to say? But then when you look at who the school shooters are, you have to ask yourself, what's going on at that point?
Hey, we're having problems hearing you, Joe. Hey, we're having problems hearing you, Joe.
Okay.
I know I am.
All right. Let me work on that real quick. I'll get back to you guys.
Okay.
All
right. So, brother, let me get back to you about this. And a little bit of what you were talking about with having judges getting involved with this. And, we got to come up with solutions now. It's just not, we just can't keep on doing this. I mean, just because a group of people feel as though that their rights will be taken away from them, their safety will be taken away from them because of a gun or the type of guns they have. Okay. All right. We probably lost that battle, right? But then we could do other things around that. We haven't done this yet. Well, maybe we should do is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, e-filing for ERPOs, which is extreme risk protection orders. And let's pre-fill those forms for police and clinicians to put input on it and have on-call magistrates Why can't we just go ahead and even with that, with on-call magistrates, I understand that people want to go ahead and have them in their jurisdictions, but let's give them the power and the authority, even if they're in a rural area and they're 50 miles away. Give them the power to go ahead and you know put these ERPOs
Right.
into effect. I mean, we got to do something. We can't just go ahead and say, "Hey, guess what? They're out of jurisdiction. We can't order that for them."
Well, let me tell you. Let's have the conversation nobody wants to have. Okay, I agree. I like your idea. I like my idea, but of course, it's going to be a fight. We've got to push that through Congress. It's going to be a fight, and it's going to have to be something that we can get the majority to agree on to get something passed. Then, after you get through that process, then it has to get implemented. So, meanwhile, while you're going through this political fight and conjecture and everything, this is going to happen all during that time. Here's what you got to do right now. You just got to simply stop it. It's interesting to me, and a lot of people don't like this, but it's interesting to me when people get mad when they send in the National Guard in a high crime area. Well, that same tactic is a tactic I've used for years. If I had drug dealers that had taken over an area, I would simply put the sheriff's office in an occupied, and they would sit there 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, lights flashing. Nobody was coming to sell drugs. Nobody was coming to do any shootouts or whatever like that. And then that trap house would close down. We end up getting the county so under control that there was a phenomenon going on in Atlanta, and I'm sure it happened in other cities, where guys was coming to churches and shooting during funerals. Literally, that happened in DeKalb County. They come in and hey, we're still mad. We start shooting at the funeral.
Mhm.
Preachers, church mothers ducking. It got to the point where families that had a child killed and they were afraid of child violence would find a church in Clayton County to have it because they knew that those guys would be too afraid to come to my county. And why were they too afraid to come to my county? Because I literally used the technique of simply just stopping it. If there was a funeral in my county that I thought might be a problem, I didn't ask. I have 5 or 7 sheriff's cars there outside just to let folks know if you pull up here and you're trying to shoot out at a funeral, it's not going to happen. So I don't think anybody now would be opposed if the National Guard was standing in front of every school. Would you really care? I'm sure the kids there today wish the National Guard was in front of them. Even when my county was under control, what would I care if they came and I had extra backup? Okay, good. You can cover this corner and this corner and that corner, and now I'm gonna get it even more under control than I already got. There has to be decisive action taken. So while I think our ideas are good and need to happen, and we need to come up with a way to seize guns from people who are a danger to themselves and others, something has to be done now. And everyone's always criticizing when someone takes action because they used to criticize me for putting sheriff's cars in front of drug houses. But when you ask them, do you have a better idea? Nobody has a better idea. The only thing they know how to do is criticize the idea you got. Well, at least somebody's doing something.
Yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah.
thoughts?
Well, the 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 thing about the National Guard is, and there's too many schools. There's too many parochial schools. There's too many, private and public schools to have the National Guard at all of these places, right? And so the soft targets that we're talking about is, weak entry points. Here we have, I'm sure they had, these windows that was easy to penetrate, and that's what happened. I mean, we've got to start framing and looking at schools in a different way until we can get this under control. We
Actually, that problem has been solved, and we can have him on the show. I hate to interrupt, brother.
No, no,
I
no,
got
no.
a,
I
I
hear
got,
you.
yeah, I got a man that used to work for me. His name is Pete Ficini,
Hmm.
and he's ex special forces. And when he started seeing what was going on at these schools, he created a device that could seal doors and windows and is bulletproof. So once this gets started and that's done, Those kids in that area are safe.
But
I
we're
get
talking
what
about
you're.
resources, right?
We're still talking about resources, but let me tell you
We're
something.
we're talking about schools that are cash strapped left and right,
Okay,
counties.
but let
How
me
are we
tell you
going to handle
something.
this?
Let me tell you something. We can find the money. I've been in
I
government
agree with you.
long enough to know that politicians have a way of finding money for all type of craziness. So
Hmm.
they can find the money for this.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can.
I'm with you on that. I just wanted to go
Right,
ahead and
right.
placate the
Yeah.
situation.
And but also getting back to what you said before, I know there's not enough National Guards for every school, but obviously there's not enough cops for every school either.
Right.
So the National Guard supplements that. And I,
Hmm.
I just can't think, I don't think this is a Republican or Democrat issue. I don't even think this is a civil rights issue. I think it's a safety
Better
issue. I
not.
think
Yeah.
whether you're Democrat or Republican, white or black, no one wants their kids getting shot.
Right.
And I
Right. Right.
think everyone is willing, hey, if this is going to keep the kids safe, why not?
Right. We're talking
Right.
about the rules of engagement, right? If somebody has
Exactly.
a gun and is doing something to a child, you don't have to worry about what a federal officer would do compared to what a state local officer is going to do or county officers.
It's
You
ridiculous, and
eliminate the
that's why we
threat.
can't get anything done.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know all of the families that have lost their loved ones in the last 90 days. And we're not from school shootings to somebody shooting up the NFL office, or at least trying to get there and get off on the wrong floor, to the massive shooting we saw. I think that was Chicago. We saw it on the porch.
Hmm.
And that was a, just gunfire going everywhere. There's another video going now where a shooting happened in New Orleans, just massive shooting. If we know those areas, and we know areas where there's a lot of gunfire, the south side of Chicago, whatever like that, I guarantee you the people who are in fear every day or have lost a loved one, they could care less if the National Guard is out there. They just want somebody out there. It almost reminds me of this dumb argument when I was with sheriff, because in my county, the sheriff used to take a hands-off attitude and let the county police handle it. And when I started handling stuff, because I wouldn't have anything to handle if it was being handled, so I started handling it. I never had a citizen say, why were your guys the first to respond? Oh my God, I wish a police officer instead of sheriff deputy respond. They just wanted someone to respond. They were
Right.
happy for the help. The
Exactly.
victims are. It's the leaders that get caught up in "Oh, hey, this is my jurisdiction, this is my job." Well, if you're doing your job, I don't have to do it for you.
Right. Right. Right.
If you
Right.
got it under control, there would be nothing for me to step in and do. So it's not under control. And I think we can use all the help we can get right now.
There's got
Now
to be some
children are
type.
getting killed. Yeah.
There's got to be some type of platform for threat assessment reviews. And with that, because we got a couple, common sense things like that, with some threat assessment reviews. I mean, I'm not even opposed to even rewarding for credible tips. It don't have to be large. It could be for $100, $500 gift card rewards. But I would rather be paying for credible tips, and that beats paying for funerals. I mean, we need to be doing things like that. How about on social media? Because you see this in schools all the time, and you see kids threatening other people, and then the next day Johnny's going ahead and handling that. Well, guess what? How about social media take some responsibility and put concern button on there? They're regulating everything that you're saying anyway on there. So why don't they do something like that? There's so many things that if you just explore that we can do to mitigate some of this nonsense.
I agree. But I don't even think we need to. I think common sense. If somebody saw that, hey, this person could be a potential threat, we shouldn't even have to pay them. I don't want anybody going out there shooting anybody. And then if I let them go and do it, we know our family won't just happen to be in the store, happen to be in the church. It's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
We probably are going to have to start holding people accountable when they don't report stuff. This
Mhm.
thing has gotten so bad, and I'm trying to find it. There was a elementary school child that researched how to stop shootings from coming to school.
Mhm.
And when he saw this device that Pete had created, he actually wrote his principal and the school board members a passionate letter saying, "Can we please have it?" This is how scared kids are. There's just some kids searching the internet that I guess he's thinking, okay, I might go to school one day and someone might come there and start shooting. What can we do? So we got trauma. Remember, we had the Wiz on the show, and he said that his daughter called screaming is gunfire. All of what turned out was balloons. The kids are so traumatized right now.
Correct.
If a balloon pops, they're assuming it's a shooting and it's mass panic. And it turned out to be not that, but that's how traumatizing it is. So,
Right.
instead of sitting around talking about, well, we don't want to take this or we don't want to do this, first thing we need to do is some immediate action. It's kind of like the drug houses I used to deal with. Okay, well, we could do surveillance for 3 months and we could send in a CI, or I could put a car there, 2 or 3 cars, and just stop it. Okay, that's it. It's not going to go on no more. So now you don't have guys shooting and hitting the wrong people and killing folks. And we just put a stop to it.
Right.
It's almost like a checkmate.
Mhm. Angela says, does the crime become displaced if we focus on school protection? I think anybody would trade that off. Kids,
Right.
getting away from those kids, absolutely. They'll trade. They'll rather go ahead and deal with it in some neighborhood rather than in some school. And
We
that's
got to
how I
protect
feel.
our defenseless. I mean,
Right.
we would protect kids and the elderly first.
Right.
And one thing about criminals and even active shooters, they're no different. Even the predators in the jungle are not looking for the fastest, strongest prey. They're trying to eat. So they're looking for one that's old, one that's young, one that's weak, one that's crippled. That way, those they can catch them. They're not
Yeah.
looking, okay, hey, wow, this person looks like he can this particular animal looks like he can run 100 miles per hour. Let me chase him and then take the chance of not eating today. They
Right.
don't do
Right.
that. Well, the same thing that they've done a study with these so-called killers.
Hmm.
He's not trying to go to the special forces base and go over there knowing that right at the guard gate he could get met with oncoming fire. He wants soft targets, like Joe was saying.
Right. Right. And
So
that is the case, right? The soft targets.
so we've got to pick the things that are most vulnerable,
Right.
and we got to protect our kids and our elderly first, of course,
Right.
and then we got to figure it out. But there has to be things in place. Unfortunately, uh, it's going to take a lot of private security. People are going to have well-trained ex-cop, ex-military folks out there. I mean,
Mhm.
we're there now. I used to get criticized, not that I paid it any attention or cared, because I had deputies with rifles outside the courthouse. Now,
Mhm.
every now and then some dummy would say, "Well, why you got these guys standing out here with rifles?" Okay. Well, if they were in Fulton County the day Brian Nichols ran through the courthouse and killed the judge, killed the clerk, killed the deputy, and then end up killing a federal agent
Mhm.
on a rampage, and that's
Right.
after taking a gun from an older female deputy, they would have wished some deputies were out there with rifles that would have put a stop to it.
Right. Right.
You either stop it from happening or you have something in place so that if it starts, it can only get so far before it's neutralized.
Yeah. I want to
And at
get
the end
back
of
to
the day, that's it.
I want to get to alley oop. Why are the doors to these schools open whereby adults can come in without being acknowledged? I am with you 100%. There's too many in these soft targets. We were just talking about it moments ago, where these doors or these easy access through these doors. I mean, it's something that Keith addressed to one of his special forces individuals with some type of a gear to go ahead and shut down for the windows, bulletproof. But the problem is with that too, that can't come fast enough. So what do we do from there? I mean, we could do something as simple as this. I would rather have if somebody's coming to take a look at me and try to prey on my kids. Why aren't some of our windows have any type of film on it, at least the reflection comes back up on them. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't see in the window to start popping off on people. Now I know what people are going to say thereafter. Well, if you do that and they were able to do that and they got into the school, guess what? Who has the advantage now? the shooter. Well, guess what? We got to do something. I mean, we just can't just not do nothing.
And let me tell you something, man. A good, good, a good leader has to be like a good boxer. When a boxer's in the ring fighting, everybody's yelling and screaming. Keep your hand up, do this, do that, do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got to tune all of that out. And he has to find out what works. He might can tune into his coach. He has to tune all that out. There's people yelling for him, yelling against him, or whatever. But he knows he has to do something. And the one thing is listening to all of this chatter is not the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, everybody always has a reason why when you take action, you shouldn't do it. But no one has a better idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived that on a personal level. Okay, well, if you use a chair preemptively, that's right. Okay. So you think that's not a good idea, which actually it is a good idea, and actually it's in policy and procedure. But now, since that's been taken away, no one has a better idea. 5 people have been killed, countless have been stabbed, and all of the great minds that came together that decided that something that was always legal is now illegal, they have yet to come and figure out, okay, well, how do you stop the violence that you've caused now that you've come up with this ridiculousness? So that's why I'm saying something has to be done. I like it when a person takes action. Anyone can sit around and say, okay, well, we don't think you should do that, or well, this is too much, or whatever. Okay. You won't be saying that if that's your kid's lying dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't be saying that if that's your son in the jail and he's being beaten and extorted or whatever like that. You want somebody to do something. And with
Right.
all of these bright minds that get to reinterpret the Constitution while they're sitting away from the stabbings and the shootings and the mass shootings or whatever like that, it would be so interesting to see if they or their family is a victim of an active shooter or the victim of a stabbing in a jail, and see how their attitude would change and how they want somebody to do something.
We can even do things like this, okay? And I
Hmm.
don't know why people don't explore it or think about it or anything like that. But for the new weapons being sold, or even if you want to voluntarily go ahead and get a weapon, okay? Why don't we have geofence safeties that disable firing near K through 12 perimeters? Okay, they're a choice that you bought a weapon and you know that it can't be under certain geofenced area, that it can't fire. Okay, and what you should have on that, I'm starting to be so mad. It should be to the point where, with our technology, that hey, guess what? You get a notification on your phone if it moves from the location in any type of way. I mean, we're on the phone all the time. Your phone knows more about you than you do. Your phone knows where it is. You should know too, and it notifies you when the gun is moved or without your authority. Set up the notifications like that. Start tracking and alerting. And how about attaching that maybe to, guess what? Lower home value, lower insurance for your home. You could do. There's so many things you can do to set this up.
I agree. I think there's a lot of things that can be done. Just keep in mind, it takes time and it takes money, which is fine. Let's do it.
Hmm.
But what do we do right now?
Yeah, yeah.
What there's a lot of kids that gotta wake up and go to school tomorrow, and there's not gonna be a shred of extra protection for them.
Right,
And if
right,
somebody decides to surround the school with deputies or whatever and say, hey, until we know we got something under control, there's going to be folks here, whether it's deputies, whether it's the National Guard, whether it's the French Foreign Legion, somebody's going to have something to say. But if my nieces and nephews at the school and the French Foreign Legion came and they were sitting outside the school to make sure it didn't happen, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it.
right.
I wouldn't be sitting around crying, talking about why is the French Foreign Legion here? Why don't they stay in France? If they're going to stop kids from getting shot, because nobody's going to be able to get past them, I don't
Right.
see the problem. I think what we need to think about, okay, how do we stop the problem until we can solve the problem?
Yeah.
So it's just like
Yeah.
with the drug houses. Okay, how do I stop this drug trafficking and stop these guys from coming here and shooting at each other? until we can find another way. And that turned out to be the best way because most of them just left.
Yeah, yeah. I will say this, that we're getting to the point where um, forget about prayers and thoughts, right? They were praying already when this was
Eh,
going on.
Good point.
I mean, we're past that. Your God, your Jesus, your whatever you think it is going to happen to help you is not helping you. Okay, we got to help ourselves until the time we meet Maker. But until that time, we got to do something now. That's just the end of it. And we can't be beholden or fear that other people, if they can't do it this way, go around them. If they block that entrance, go above them, go underneath them. Yeah, of course. And there are times when you have to go through people, but at the same time, it's not like we can't do this in a slow crawl. You know what I mean? And more to your point, what you're saying is we got to do something now. So the best
Right.
way to handle things now is with a warm body. We're going to have to post up, and that's what it's going to require.
Right. We're not going to stop praying now. We're not going to stop praying. But to your point, I think that the victims are tired of seeing the leaders get up and talk about how horrible this is and how unimaginable this is. And we've got to wrap our hands around it. I think everybody already knows that. They want to see some strong, divisive leadership, not divisive, decisive,
Mhm.
strong, decisive leadership that's going to say, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Joe,
And
go
yeah,
ahead.
go
Joe
ahead.
brought up an interesting point. He was saying that most of these mass school shootings are perpetrated by 98% of them about white children. What do we got to do to save our white children? We got to do something because there's
You know,
something else going on.
let me say this. I understand that, but to me, mass shootings are mass shootings, just like gangs are gangs. When I was sheriff, there was this big debate of do we have gangs? Do we not have gangs? What constitutes a gang? Whatever like that. Okay, one thing we know for sure. Do I believe the Crips and Bloods came all the way from Los Angeles to Clayton County? No, I don't. I believe it's just a bunch of dummies saying I'm a Crip and I'm a Blood.
Right.
But we had gang like behavior that was getting people shot and killed. So my job wasn't to figure out where they are ganging up. My job is how do I stop all this killing? Well, I think the same thing with this. Okay, this type is perpetrated. Whether it's a white child, if you want to call him that, doing mass shootings, or it's Pookie on the porch in Chicago shooting up 8 or 9 people because he's angry. It's a mass shooting and violence is violence. So how do we stop it? And what we got to figure out is how to get to the root of the problem. The first thing I want to do, if there's a way to cure people from being violent and crazy, I'm all for it. But until then, how do I just plain stop it? Okay, and that was what I had to concentrate on when I was sheriff. It's like the jail. Okay, jails have people bringing drugs in. Jails have people making shanks and stabbing folks. Okay, if there was a way to get in and change their hearts, or there was a way to treat their frontal lobe so they wouldn't do it, I'm not opposed to that. But until we get to that, how do we stop it? And I had to put things in place to stop it, be it neutral oath, be it the restraint chair, be it one entrance where everything is searched and it's being recorded, be it lockdown. How do I stop people from getting killed in the jail? Then once we stop it, then we can sit down and say, and we can sit down and hold hands and start crying if that's what some people want to do and figure out, okay, how can I heal you? But right now, I got to stop you from killing people because if we concentrate on the healing right now, more people are going to get killed. First, let's stop it, and then let's get to the healing. Prioritize and execute, for lack of a better term.
Well, that's true. The pushback would be, though, that's 98%. And we can't ignore that.
The what?
So there's a
98%?
phenomenon. With everything that you said, the pushback will still be it's still 98%. If Joe's statistics are correct, we still got a huge problem. And if you got 98% of white males conducting themselves in this manner, there's something phenomenally broken
Right, but
in
what
that
I'm saying is
situation.
this: we got to find the common denominator to stop it. Whether it's this guy, the guy at CDC, I think the guy that went to the NFL and do the shooting there, he was a black male, correct?
Mhm.
The DC snipers were two black people. I'm not
Right.
saying one don't outnumber the other. I'm not saying that there's
Mhm.
not more white people doing this shooting at this time than black people. What I'm saying is we're missing prioritizing and executing. How do we stop all of them from doing the shooting? How do we make it difficult for them to do it? Then we
You
can
said it.
get to okay, well, how do we save this particular type of shooter so he doesn't feel that way anymore? And how do we save that way? Because to me, a mass shooting is a mass shooting. And we're
Mhm.
having mass shootings now in the black community. It's different situations. I mean, in Atlanta, we had 14 people shot, I believe, outside the club. Now, he may not have been a transgender. He may not have been a white guy mad at the insurance, but 14 people are still shot.
Right.
So how do we stop these mass shootings? Whether it's Billy Bob or Pookie, how do we stop it?
Right.
Then
I
then after we put that in, then we can sit down and figure out, okay, well, to stop this type of person, we could do this, and stop this type of person, we could do that.
okay. I think you're going the general route. I'm focusing on the school shootings on that
Okay.
end of it. We already answered it though. The answer
Okay.
is post up. Post
Yeah.
up. And we may mean post up in these schools where it is predominantly white. You get you if what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You can't go ahead and say, hey, guess what? In these inner cities, if they are predominantly black, that you can go ahead and militarize that area, but don't militarize these white schools that are getting shot up and all these kids are dying. You can't you
I don't
can't
think anyone would disagree with that, because I think that the parents of the kids, whether they black or white, want the protection. I don't know if there's a parent out there that would say, I don't want the National Guard outside my school after what happened today. I don't think that's the issue. And
Mhm.
then also we got to understand this. If we only put it in one area, let's say we're only going to militarize it in the white community, well, then somebody will just go and shoot up a black school. I mean, we in Charleston, my hometown, we had someone came and shot up a black church. So I think at the root of the problem, black or white, the parents of these people, these guys all fit a psychological profile where
Mhm.
most of them live at home. They're dysfunctional. They don't work. They fit the same profile we were taught when I was in homicide or serial killers. And the parents of these guys know that these folks are crazy, and they know there's guns in the house,
Mhm.
and they need to be made to, hey, listen, we got this situation here, we have weapons. A situation like that has to be reported and monetized. There is a person living in my house that's mentally unstable. He has made threats of suicide and homicide before. I guarantee you, when they look at this guy and they profile him, this is not the first. This just didn't happen one day. There was something out there. Like you said, he got on YouTube or something and started saying something. You know if your child has a problem, and you know if there are weapons in there. And that's the first step. The first step is they've got to report it. I'm not even going to say they have to do something. Well, they have to secure the weapons, of course, but most of them can't control these people either.
Right.
But they have to
Right.
give but we can control the fact that they have to report it to the authorities. And when they report it to the authorities have to act. We have to come to the house. We have to search for weapons. We have to find weapons he has access to and secure it. And then if this person feels that he should have a weapon again, give him his due process. Okay, you can implore the courts for a hearing, and you can prove to the courts that, hey, I'm ready to have a gun again. And if mental health professionals agree with that, good luck with that. but it can be done. I know it's been done. I've had a parent come to me, hey, my son is crazy and he has a rifle, and here it is.
Mhm.
So we put it in storage for her. And then he came down to the sheriff's office saying, hey, I want my gun back. And I was like, hey, no problem. We got it. Hey, just go to the doctor and bring me a notice or whatever. Well, I'm sure there's going to be people right now, oh my God, you took this guy's gun or whatever. Yeah, we did. Well, guess what? He didn't do a mass shooting, but he was saying and doing crazy things that I agreed with her. He shouldn't have a gun. And
Mhm.
instead of his anger being at his mom, it was now directed towards me. He used to come up to the sheriff's office every day. I want to see the sheriff. I want my gun back. Hey man, what's going on? How you doing? I said, why don't we just do this and do that? I said, yeah, I want you to have your gun back. All right. So, of course, we
Well,
know we got some folks out there that's probably, oh my God, he did. We're trying to keep people from being killed.
right, right. We are trying to do that. Now, once again, we're talking about if they have res- responsible parents or parents at all.
And that's why I
That may
say
not
we
be the
got,
case.
and they may not have parents at all. And of course, that's when
Right.
we got the government has to be able to intervene, kind of like that case we talked about with the lady that was raising the son by in a boarded up house. There
Yeah,
should
it
just
was
be
crazy
intervention from law enforcement.
for
But
sure.
if there is a parent there and they have a
Mm.
23, 30-year-old living at the house that's dysfunctional, he can't keep work,
Yeah, you
he's
can't keep
locked up in
himself
the
up.
room all
Yeah.
day, drawing pictures on the wall, and somewhere during this time he made some
Mhm.
type of statement that he hates soccer players or whatever like that. We
Right.
need to know about that.
Right.
And we
Right.
need
Right.
to
Right.
make sure he don't have a gun. And if he does, we need to take it, and we need to start doing aggressive, proactive stuff to keep that situation under control.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about people that just we like. Let me put this out there. We like to say that Americans are home of the brave. We are the weakest nation. We're afraid of our own goddamn shadow. In fact, we're scared of people who look different from one another. That's America right now. And unfortunately, we're not going to go ahead and challenge. So let's just keep the same old traditional ways of enforcing the laws or so on and so forth. No, we got to do something. We
Something
can't
has
do
to be
like this.
done different. But I can tell you this: anytime someone steps out and does something different, there's this massive outcry. Just like when I used to put sheriff's cars in drug infested areas, and kept them at 24 hours a day. There's going to be this group that's going to outcry.
Right,
This is an outrage,
right,
like let's protect, we got to make sure we protect the constitutional rights of killers and drug dealers and everything like that, because we don't want them to not feel free to have drive-by shootings and stuff like that. And that's the type of insanity that's going on.
right.
And when somebody does something, be it the National Guard or whatever, everybody's all up in arms, but nobody has a better idea. Okay, I tell you what else are we going to do? And then some of them come up with the most unrealistic ideas there are. Like, we need people who can de-escalate, and we need people, civilians. We need more community based. If that worked, do you really think this guy today could have been de-escalated?
No,
Do you
not coming in
really
like that.
think that Holand, if the police had more cookouts in his neighborhood and he got to come and interact with them and they gave him a hot dog and
Yeah,
then they started dancing with fans and stuff with him, that he wouldn't have done what he did today?
right.
Do you really think that's going to stop killing? And I once had a man say something to me I'll never forget. He said, "Who do you send to catch a serial killer?" And the room stopped because we were all looking for the answer. I already knew the answer. I just wanted to see what he was going to say. He said, "You have to send a killer. You can't send a Boy Scout."
Right,
So now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're going to hire serial killers, because people can take
right.
that and run with their imagination. But what I'm
What's the
saying is this:
mentality?
in order the mentality to deal with these type of people who kill
Mhm.
kids, it takes a special type of person to kill a kid. Not, and when I say special, I don't mean special good. And it's going to take somebody special for the side of good to stop these people.
Yeah,
And the type of person it takes to stop these people is not the person that gets down on the ground with baby dolls and play with kids and stuff. Do we want our kids protected? or do we want? And see, that's another problem with the program in schools. They want to turn these guys there at the school into kitty cops. So they want them to have a relationship with the kids. They want them to be the kids' friends. And most of the time, these kids don't take the kids serious. If I got kids at a school, I don't care if he's their friend. I don't care if they like him. I want to know that he's proficient with his weapon, that he's nobody to be played with. And if some dummy pops up like this guy did today, I know the right guy for the job is going to go there and stop it. Or I know that this guy is so feared that the guy I'm not going to that school, I'm going someplace else. I don't need people playing with my cops playing with my kids. That's not going to solve the problem. I need my kids protected and coming home and being safe.
Right. And this is the moment where I want to just go ahead and say, and even if we did have cops at the school, just like we saw at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas 4 or 5 years ago, when that a police officer decided to hide behind an object and
Exactly.
wait for others. Um, on that day, that doesn't get talked about a lot. Two Coral Springs police officers, they were told to stand down and let the Broward sheriffs handle that situation. They said F that shit and they went in there to handle business.
Yes.
I don't know if they'll ever see this video, but I just want to let you both know and understand that you did the right thing and you took it in the chin, because I do understand that you got disciplined for that. But any day of the week, everybody will support you through the roof for that type of stuff. And your superiors, quite truthfully, they supported you too. They just had to play politics. So I just wanted to go ahead and give out a shout out to those two Coral Springs officers.
Right. And don't forget that other shooting where they stood down and finally some officers went in. Um, I think that was in Texas, correct?
Yeah,
Remember? Yeah,
Uvalde. Yeah, because of
exactly.
operational control and stuff like that. And that's why
Right,
some of
right.
those got charged.
All that dumb stuff, well, who's in charge? Who's this?
Right,
Who's that? Well, who has the authority to bring this person? Who has the
right.
authority? Man, when you see somebody doing
Handle
something
that.
good, handle that.
Right.
Right. I'm sure they wish the National Guard would have been there. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Handle
So,
that right there. And then
right.
you're tackling parents because they wanted to go in there and do something. Or
And
you
do something that you were
create
too afraid to do,
right.
or you was gonna get caught up in the bureaucracy.
Right.
So
Worrying about,
so
oh my goodness, he had better guns than we did. Those kids had no guns. And you had something.
so we need to rethink that. Do we want social workers or do we want police officers?
Right,
And do we want police officers that play with our kids and our kids feel like he's my friend
right,
and we rap together and we whatever. And this is the same guy that runs out to school when people come in and start shooting or he has to stand down. Okay, can he really protect the school if he's playing with the kids?
right.
We need somebody who's on that perimeter making sure nothing's getting here. These kids don't get whatever. Like I said, I live vicariously through you. I have nieces and nephews, but I want my nieces and nephews protected.
Right.
I could care less if they like the cop. I want to know if the cop can stop the threat from getting it in. As long as they're safe, that's good. Do
Right.
your homework. Go play a video game. I ain't worried about you playing with a cop.
Right. Well, we're going to go ahead and land this plane because, but we do want to go ahead and let everyone know that on Saturday, we have a heck of a show coming up. If you can remember, in California, we had two individuals that went and told a fabrication about their 7-month-old child. You saw it all over social media where the mother came in and did a press conference with the worst acting job in U.S. history. And come to find out that shortly after that press conference, she was charged with murder, and so was the husband. So we have that coming up on this Saturday. Please stay tuned for that. Brother, you have any other words that you want to go ahead and say before we shut this down?
No, other than again, our condolences to the family, and we just pray for their healing. That's going to be a long road. When you have that type of loss, only two things work, and that's time and God.
Yeah.
God and time.
Well
Yeah,
said. We'll leave it at that.
yeah.
Please like, subscribe, and also comment further on what you have here. And then God bless all their souls for sure. Talk to you soon.